elections are not decided in the last 1 week or 2 weeks.
Yes.
Usually, elections are decided much earlier in terms of what space one has, resources that are put at play, and so on, and if there's fair play in terms of the incumbency and the opposition.
Yes.
But I think their presence is to ensure that everybody adheres the rules and regulations of election process. Right now, we have a two system of operation, the digital or electronic, and also the ballot paper, physical ballot papers. So they are here to ensure that the two systems comply and that they operate and so on. We have been assured by IBC that the systems are in place, and the observers will be here to ensure that the IBC promises are actually true to what they are saying. They're also here to ensure that the losers and winners, that everybody wins, celebrates in a manner that is acceptable, and whoever loses in the election concedes defeat in a manner that is very democratic and so on.
So of course, they're going to come in handy because most politicians in Kenya are, in an election, not because it's a contest, because they're in to win and win alone.
Exactly. And by the way, that's why I think the African Union and the UN and so on are paying out of attention because of this win situation for everybody, that it appears like if Jubilee wins or NASA wins, the other side will always find it very, very hard to concede. So they are here to ensure that this takes place. The other issue, I think, they are here to assure us, Kenyans, that they are with us, that whether the Jubilee side wins or NASA side wins, life will continue. They are here to assure us that other democracies operate in a similar manner, and that the observation is to ensure that everybody adheres to the rules and regulations.
Of course, provided the exercise is credible. Dr. Njoki, do you think the observers have a role to play?
Yes, they have a major role to play. Like the Prof said, they're here to make sure that all the rules and regulations are adhered to.
Yes.
And that the world is watching. Kenya is a very important country in East Africa. And we actually, we lead in East Africa, so it is very, very important. What happens here is going to affect the whole region. So they have a great role to play.
Yes, as you bite into it, Dr. Robert, as well, there's also another election happening in Rwanda, but people are not talking about it as much as, they're talking about Kenya's election. What does that say?
It talks about, says more to do with our competitive landscape. Kenya, with the growth of democratic space, has created a very competitive environment, which is a key aspect of democratization. So what I would say is that in our case here, we have become more unpredictable in terms of the outcome as democracy has expanded. So there's that much interest in Kenya. Also, we should not also forget that Kenya is the economic powerhouse of this region. It's also in terms of peacekeeping and also its role in conflict mediation in the region. So our major, we are a very important part of the Africa and the geopolitics outside of Africa as well. So there's a lot of interest in what happens here because it affects what happens in landlocked countries, what happens in the rest of the world. We are at the center of everything.
Chef, so do you agree that the attention Kenya is receiving right now? Actually, it has been captured very well on today's Daily Nation that all eyes is on Kenya. Do you think it's because of a strategic significance? Because there's also another election happening in Rwanda, and actually, people don't even know the opponents of the incumbent.
I think I'm at the border. I'm at the border of yes and no, and this is my reason. I am on yes because I think there is a lot about Kenya going into an election that has never, or that rarely turns out peaceful. Right? And I use that word very loosely because I lack a better term. And based on everything that is at stake in this election in Kenya, I think everybody ought to having their eyes on Kenya. So that is very true. People have their eyes on Kenya, not because we are entirely a great country. I believe we are in our own right. We are not the best of East Africa. I refuse that. I think we are losing that every single day, but we still live under the illusion that we are. we are just a very special country when it comes to elections. We turn into these upright people but do not operate on an upright posture. We are very strange people. We start seeing the side of politics that we should not be seeing, even after we have engaged in several elections before. We start questioning so many things. I mean, Musando is dead. It is a problem.
Yes.
You know? In Rwanda, it's a different story. And Rwanda is a bit too delicate to talk about based on how their democracy is and how young they are, but how they're working. They also have their own dynamics. So you see, East Africa, as much as we belong to like a particular bloc, each and every country is very unique in the way that their democracy works. Because democracy cannot be cut, copy, paste in every single country, despite the fact that we belong to a bloc. So the way we democratize our elections, the way we engage in that process, the way people participate in that process, the way our institutions conduct that process is creating all this buzz. That's why we have so many observers. I am hoping that their recommendations, because at the end of the day, what they're supposed to do is affirm integrity of the election process. Was it integral? Yes. What did you see? A, B, C, D. It led to X, Y, and Z. Yes. I hope that at the end of this election, all their recommendations and all their reports and all that will be implemented. Yes. I think people lack the connection between they always come during or before, they exist during the election, and then after they disappear. So we wonder, but why should we even have observers? But then even the ones that I have talked to, because I've had at least some kind of conversation with them, have said, we write recommendations, we write reports, and we hand them over to the people who invite us to come to the countries. Yes. So it's up to them to look and check and say, okay, in 2013, this is where we went wrong. In 2017, this is what we got right. Exactly. In 20, you know, so we can always keep improving the way democracy is done, because democracy is constantly changing. Yeah.
I think the beautiful thing is that all of us are in agreement that, you know, observers have a role to play.
They do.
When it comes to the electioneering period. Of course, speaking about the day's politics and on the campaign trail,